Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Planning Committee. Item 1 to sign the minutes of the previous meeting. Members, is it your wish I sign this track record? Agreed? Thank you. Item 2, apologies for absence.
I'm the Vice Chairman.
I think it's a full house by the floor, isn't it? So, members' interest. To receive any declarations of members' interest. First of all, disclosable interest. Party whipping arrangement?
No.
To members of the public, that means we don't get together beforehand to decide that we're going to vote together either on party lines or any other lines. Decision is made individually on the evening. Applications withdrawn or delegated. The first application in Hannington has been deferred. The first application in Crick, which is 1003, is a delegated approval. There was no comments on the second application from the parish council, so it was approved. The next thing is to tell you a few things about what's happening. First of all, members, the percentages. We're well into the 80% of applications, and we're in a similar period, a similar percentage as last time for applications that appeal, though there are still several in the pipeline. I would mention, because it did crop up today, that if we're dealing with matters from a large application, it can still, and it loses and it goes to appeal, it still counts as a loss against us. I never found that out till today, and there is one on the agenda tonight. That's how we've come across it. So if you do deal with matters of a large application, alteration or something, and you do refuse it, if it does go to appeal and it's successful. Is everybody else hot in here tonight? Because it was freezing cold this afternoon and now it seems to be boiling hot. So I'll just tell you, members, right, for everybody else, if you hear the fire alarm ring, it's not a test, so please do leave the building as quickly as possible, either through that door or through the way you come in. Please switch your mobile devices to silent, he says, having not done them himself. We do give £5 to the chairman's charity if your phone goes off, so shut your phone down if you haven't got any £5 on it. The proceedings are being recorded. Speakers will have 3 minutes, you'll hear a tone and you'll be asked to wind up. If you don't, well, you'll be politely told to wind up. Yeah, that's the only opportunity that you will have to speak during that 3 minutes. We'd ask you not to, you'll hear things that you don't like from certain speakers. If you do, don't clap, hiss or boo or make nasty comments to them. We'd appreciate, and you'll see officers talking during the debate. It looks bad manners. It's not bad manners. We're trying to get answers to the points that you yourselves bring up in speaking. And I think that's through all the housekeeping bits. We next go on to planning application. When I get to the... Sorry, Councillor Ovington.
I would like to declare two things for the planning application 0824. The applicant and the parish contacted me directly and we had some talks, but I haven't made my mind. I will represent the parish. And on Wixworth I am the county councillor. Okay,
thank you, Councillor Ovington. Next we move on to the planning application.
Oh, Councillor Randall.
Sorry.
Councillor Randall. DA 2014-1045A. I did vote on that at Town Council.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. No more? Right. We'll now go on to the first planning application, which is Byfield, if I've got my pages right, which is 0724.
Thank you, Chairman.
This is an outline application for the construction of up to 116 dwellings at land off Woodford Road, Byfield. The only matter of sort is the access into the site. Therefore, we have to consider the principle of residential development, whether this is acceptable or not. The applicants have submitted additional information relating to the accessibility into Byfield. I consider that the route into Byfield would be an improvement to the current situation. The applicants are also willing to do additional measures. Daventry District Council does not at present have a deliverable housing supply for 5 years. Therefore, the second part of paragraph 14 is enacted. It is considered policies GN1, HS22, HS24 and R1 are not just housing policies, as they deal with other issues. The site juts out from the village and it is considered will have a detrimental impact on the form and character of the village. The site is away from the central core of the village, affecting its overall character. The proposal will lead to the loss of a Grade 3A agricultural land. Therefore, it is considered in this particular case the benefits of the scheme do not outweigh the demonstrable harm caused. The application is therefore recommended for refusal. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Catherine. We have 2 speakers. Mrs. Wright is against the application.
Here.
Right. You can speak, stand up and speak, or sit down and speak, or come to the front, or whatever you want to do. You've got 3 minutes anyway, as soon as you start.
Thank you. Byfield is a village dissected by the A361, which unfortunately gets the traffic that runs from the M40 to the M1. So we already have a problem with traffic. We also have within the developments at Woodford House, another 200 houses have been built there, which is on average a house has 2 cars these days, possibly more. That means another 400 cars per day. It's a very busy road. People who travel out of the village, the children for school, the old folk who go into town to do their shopping, all have to cross this road. I know there's been a survey on the traffic, but to stand there when vehicles are coming past you at 80 miles an hour, and that's no exaggeration. I don't see how it could possibly be safe to have another road coming out onto the Woodford Road. Other than that, we know that the school is full, that there's a problem there. People are being offered bribes not to put their children into Byfield School, as they told me when I went round, because other people want to go to Byfield School. The doctors have said they can't take any more patients. Where are the patients going from Woodford to the doctors? There is no doctor at Woodford. So there's a wide catchment area for all those sort of services. And there's very little industry, small amount at Woodford, but certainly insufficient to cover the amount of people who would be looking for employment in the area. And I think the offer of a few cheaper houses for youngsters, starter homes, is derisory. Our parish council has always stuck to the rules about government edicts as to what we should and shouldn't do. We've had development in Byfield on a regular basis. We've had Kirkendon, which again gave cheaper houses for residents. We've had Clog Meadow, and there's a further one that's in operation at the moment. There's also infill housing where people who have large gardens have been adding to the stock of housing within the area. So I don't see that there is a requirement for a large number of houses. This is only outline, and I don't see it saying that another at least 200 or more cars will come in and out of that estate if it's allowed to be built. On that Woodford Road, between 6:30 and 9:30 in the morning, it's like a traffic jam. It's the same again at night when everybody returns. Anybody from Woodford who wants to go to Banbury, the motorway, Leamington, Warwick, Daventry, the motorway, they all have to come down the Woodford Road into Byfield. And the roundabout at the bottom of the hill, children have to negotiate to get to school in the mornings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Wright. Mr. Clown, Parish Council.
Thank you. Thank you also to Mrs. Wright, who has come very close to shooting my fox. The Parish Council has noted that the applicant has put in a very, very detailed application, as one would expect. They have ticked every box that one must tick in a kind of standardised fashion, that they haven't, we think, considered local specific needs and specific local facts. The site is outside the long established boundaries of the village. It doesn't comply with the old saved planning policies, and as far as I can see, it doesn't comply with the new emerging policy either. It's a separate block of development with its own access from further up Woodford Road. In other words, even the access to it is outside the existing confines of the village. And by any kind of sensible definition, that's a ghetto. Now, in Byford, we don't want ghettos, we want integration of new people into the village, and I think pretty well everywhere in this country would follow that approach. The other thing is, this development is not sustainable in any real-world meaning of sustainable. It's too far from the village facilities for all but the fit to walk. It's too far and too dangerous to cycle. If anybody says the A361 has no cycle accidents on it, that's because it's too scary for anybody to try. How would people carry home their children? How would people deal with unaccompanied small children? They will all get into the car, and all of the traffic to and from that will be by car. There's no local employment sufficient to employ the people who might live there. They will all get into the car again, and they will set off to the M40 or into Daventry every morning. And as has been mentioned, the Byford Medical Centre is already totally overloaded. We know that. The school is overloaded, and it's a very old building and couldn't handle new pupils, new way to working with pupils. So the Parish Council requests that the Planning Committee follow the officer's advice and reject this application.
Thank you, Mr. Canal. Two local members present. Have you worked out between you which is who's speaking first? A member of the committee should do first, but are you giving away Councillor Patchett, or are you speaking?
Well, we'll stick to protocol, tonight, Chairman.
Okay.
First of all, I'd like to commend the officer, Mrs. Daniels, for the very well written report that's been produced here. And it's that well written, I don't really, well, I'm not able to comment much further on it. The Parish Council has outlined a lot of the things that are in the report, and also Mrs. Wright has as well. One thing I've been rather disappointed in this whole process for this application is that both Gladmans and the landowner have not engaged with the village. Now, I've known Byfield villagers for some years now, and they're very nice and very polite group of people. And for Gladmans to say that they won't meet with the Parish Council because they felt that their staff would be intimidated, it's very wrong, and I was very disappointed at that. With that in mind, I've got no problem with proposing that we accept officer's advice and making that proposal as board member, Chairman.
Thank you. Before I go to Councillor Griffin, do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Chandler. Councillor Griffin.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to speak in support of the previous three speakers, including the councillor. I'm very concerned about the loss of the agricultural land, and it will also, the development would also be in open countryside. It will not sit well with the character of the village of Byfield. I have great reservations about a safe walking route. I understand that developers think there's a possibility of providing one, but I'm not convinced. And I believe everybody will have to leap into their cars. I won't repeat what everybody has said previously, but if you look at the report, which is very detailed and very well written, I believe the whole development would be unsustainable, and I refer you to the report. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Griffin. Councillor Chantley, you seconded it. Would you like to speak?
Yes, please, Chairman. Simply to say that, yes, I endorse the views expressed thus far. It is a very good report, and if members are thinking of recycling it, please save pages 48 and 49 for your homework. There is an excellent example of how to argue that whether or not a development is sustainable. It fails 2 of the 3 tests. I'm slightly concerned that I've read a number of references to the emerging joint book strategy, but then I realised that it's been 6 months in the production of this report. We all know that we adopted the core strategy on the 15th of December, and we've passed the date for challenge. There have been no challenges, so it's an unchallenged adopted joint core strategy. That maybe it doesn't matter because this is a report which is ephemeral, but I note that in the draft reasons for refusal the word emerging also appears, and I'd like it to be replaced by the word adopted if possible, please. Otherwise I simply second the proposal that we follow up with the report.
Thank you, Councillor John. I thought you were trying to impress members that you'd read that nice thick booklet just beforehand. Any other comments? Councillor Paul.
Thank you, Chairman. Page 41. A little bit of concern with the local highway authority, and the comments are weighted. We sit in this chamber time and time again, questioning, not agreeing with, or having discussions about the highway. If we can change the screen to show the highway with the 361, the news that a village further down the 361 is going to have a bypass, when, natural thing is to try to slow the 361 and to stop it being used as a rat run. If we can go to the other screen, which is showing the 361 at the junction, that one there, having travelled that route on a daily basis, morning and night, for a number of years, that is a nightmare. The 2 roundabouts linked together there, and the thought that you're going to extend the island, which is there now, even further without putting in a pelican crossing, it's just beyond me. For highway reasons, I would hope that this application is refused, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Paul. You'd like to comment, Councillor?
Yes, please. In a sense, with the highways, the applicant and also the highway authority have been in long discussions with the applicant, and they have basically advised that there's no highway safety issues on this. It's just clarification on traffic transport assessment, and they're likely to say that Section 106 monies contributions would be required. And also in regards to sort of this scheme, this was actually the one before us, and just now is the actual scheme which was approved with the Woodford Byfield Road Woodford scheme. The applicants have indicated that they are willing to do some sort of formal crossing, and this is endorsed by the Highway Authority. So even though there's nothing formal in their comments, speaking to them and through email exchanges, do not have a problem with highway safety.
Well, if I may come back just briefly, Chairman, was this a desk decision, or was it an actual decision by sitting by the side of that road for a number of days or weeks? Clearly, there is a highway problem. In addition, and it's not a planning reason, but the moment that the M1 snarls up, or in the case the other day where the M1 and the M40 were blocked, the 361 takes the pressure. Now, I know that is not a planning reason, but if they're still in negotiation with the highway, or if the applicant is still in negotiation with the highway, I would suggest that we defer this until they come up with a sensible, manageable reason.
I'm afraid it's quite common practice, Councillor Paul, for the county council to come up with reasons and we disagree with them. Unfortunately, unless we have experts, we can't argue against them. Councillor Patrick, quick one.
Yeah, just for members' information, the bypass at Chipping Warden is being paid for by the HS2 project, and I'm sure Byfield would love a bypass as well, but I'm afraid there just isn't the money in the pot.
Okay.
We have the thing.
Thank you. Right, if there's no more comments, we've got a proposal that officers advised to refuse the application. That has been seconded. All those in favour, please show. That's unanimous then. Thank you, the application is refused. If there's anybody here from Byfield that wants to go and think you're disturbing us, if you want to go, we'll give you a couple of minutes to go. Okay, we go now to the welfare application 0824. Catherine?
Thank you, Chairman. This is the site of the Newlands Road in Welford. Members may recall the site to the east, which has been given outline permission for 38 dwellings. This is to the east, as you can see. It's pretty much one field, as you can see by the aerial photos, but there's a footpath which you might see by the site location plan, which pretty much runs through the centre or between the walls of the edges of the field. Trees are located in the hedgerow, which funds the application site. The site is also located on a higher ground level than the road, as well as the site to the east. Concern was raised by officers regarding the potential impact on the street scene and the loss of the trees and the hedgerow on this bank. The applicants have demonstrated that only 2 trees will be removed and the remainder will stay. The access will also not be over-engineered, so you still get a green bank as you by the photos. There is an impact through the loss of trees, but considering the immediate surroundings and the lack of housing land supply, the significant benefits outweighs the harm. The application should therefore be supported and is recommended for approval. Members' attention is drawn to late representations. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Catherine. We have 3 speakers. Mr. Curtis, who's against the application.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I speak on behalf of myself and other neighbours who objected to this application. The first page of your report lists 9 policies with which this proposal does not comply. It further notes that the development will cause harm to the urban countryside. The development taken with others recently approved will produce a 16% increase in the number of houses in the village, which is well beyond any growth factor ever envisaged in any village in the district, leading to substantial harm to its character. The approval therefore rests on its passing the 3 tests of sustainability in equal measure, whilst the whole of pages 61 and 62 give a more than adequate explanation on policy grounds why the application should be refused. The issue of whether this is sustainable development gets scant reference on half the page on page 63, which offers no justification. I'd like to look at the 3 issues. Firstly, social. The report acknowledges that Welford has a limited range of facilities with no employment base and focuses mainly on the adequacy or otherwise of the bus service, being 3 trips daily to Northampton taking an hour. In Stratton, a frequency of 8 per day was recently held inadequate by this committee. I think it's preposterous to suggest that a 1-month travel pass for each house mitigates this shortcoming. Secondly, economic. The letters of support, mainly from people outside the village, suggest that more housing is required to allow them to return. These are the same people who supported Phase 1, and I would have thought their needs could be satisfied there. Phase 1 offers 11 social houses, and the village boasts the highest percentage of entry-level houses in the district. There is no proven need for housing in the village. The economic benefit arising from new homes bonus and additional rates are bogus, as acknowledged by the author. The report also states that the proposal is not essential to support existing services, including the school. The report makes no comment as to whether the proposal passes the economic test, but clearly it does not. Thirdly, environmental. The report offers no explanation as to why the development will not have a significant harm to the environment. It states that the site is surrounded by residential development, which it is not, there being completely open aspects to the site. The site sits high relative to adjoining properties, and the new houses will be prominent and will dominate. They will cause loss of privacy. They will be seen in the context of nearby heritage assets, and the amenity of the public footpath which crosses the site will be impaired. It fails the environmental test on sustainability on so many counts. So taken all together, the proposal fails to pass any test of sustainability. It's difficult to imagine why the report concludes otherwise, when evidence to the contrary is so compelling. Its only positive, as put forward by the applicant and report author, is that it will add 16 houses to the 5-year supply of electricity, and yet the proposal will have long-term and permanent negative impacts on the lives of neighbours and the character of the village. I urge the committee to refuse the application because it is not a sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Brotherton, Parish Council.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm Nigel Brotherton, I'm the Chairman of Wilford Parish Council. The Parish Council's objection grounds on page 2 of the report are expanded on the lake list. I wish to highlight a couple of points. Piecemeal development. The observation section of the report reads as though 2 fields cover the application and the neighbouring approved site. This is misleading, as we've heard tonight, both sites are in the same field. The original proposal for the neighbouring development involved 5 accesses through the hedge. The importance of retaining the hedge was recognised and 1 access approved. The Parish Council is to maintain the hedge to keep its integrity and landscape value. A second access to a completely standalone estate in the same field will undermine this work, leave 2 separate developments on the same field, certainly not comprehensive planning for the physical benefit of the village or for the taking of 106 contributions. Access grounds. The frontage is a 1 metre high bank, which is actually on there at the moment, topped by a hedge mentioned and mature trees. The case and landscape officers recognise the importance of the hedge and trees, but do not comment specifically about the bank. It is an important part of the street scene. A site visit would demonstrate that point immediately. The effect of the visual and landscape impacts on the proposal have not been assessed in the report. It does express concern over the extent of earthworks on the planting, even noting that Tree D will have some roots exposed. This is not considered to be detrimental. I disagree. Most of you members are either country folk or gardeners and will know better. The landscape officer comments that the trees and hedge are important, needing protection under a method statement illustrating the new entrance and in particular the level and extent of excavation. I've not been able to find such a statement and I'm concerned and a little confused. The application seeks access approval, yet no drawing showing the effect of the earthworks when looking into the site is available. We've got side views but nothing going in to show how it's going to be opened up. The 90 metre long bank will be breached to an existing road level at its midpoint and vision space excavated 45 metres each way. It will also be excavated well into the site to form the access road. So in addition to the 10 metre opening, earthworks will affect the entire length of the bank. Apart from the visual impact, the Parish Council is concerned about maintenance. We maintain Burgess to amenity standard. It's important to ensure the proposal is maintainable. My confusion is that, although access is sought by the application, full extent of work is not available, and submission of the detailed engineering drawings is being treated similarly to a reserved matter under suggested condition number 6. This effectively precludes consideration of important detail until after the principle of access and the possible future of the site has been considered. It's not logical and may even be of dubious legality, as you members and third parties will be prevented from reconsidering the principle even if drawings prove to be horrendous. Finally, a plea from Parish Council involvement in the 106 process. We tried very hard to be involved in the recent ones, no avail. The village has a recreation ground, play area, sports field, community centre, village hall, preschool, chapel, church, all offering leisure, sport, education and religious activities locally, all in need of financial support. Some money towards keeping these would be far more appreciated than the £30,000 reserved for 2 bush shelters.
Could you wind up now, please?
Yeah. After all, if the village takes the pain in mitigation, it should receive some payment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Stroman, the agent.
This application seeks outline planning permission for a residential development of up to 16 dwellings, of which 40% will be for affordable units. The site is bounded to the north and west by detached and semi-detached houses, whilst to the east the land which is granted planning permission for a residential development last year. The proposed development will therefore be seen in the context of existing housing and the proposed housing to the east. This land stands at a higher level than the land to the east only, and is proposed as a separate development. In such a way, the existing public footpath, which runs in a north-south direction from Newlands Road immediately to the east of the site, would be retained in its current form and would not be crossed by an estate road. The footpath would remain on its current alignment within a strip of land some 15 metres wide, flanked by hedgerows. Although the land is at a higher level than the road, the difference in levels is in the order of 1 metre. Whilst there will be the need for some regrading of the bank at the front of the site, this is not extensive and the majority of the bank is unaffected. The hedge and trees in the field boundary at the front of the site are set back from Newlands Road and will not be affected by the development except where a short section of hedge needs to be removed to provide the estate road. This will be more than compensated for by the planting of hedgerow along the eastern boundary, such there will be a net increase in hedges on the land, having a positive impact on both habitat and wildlife corridor creation of the site overall. The Highway Authority has confirmed that the proposed access meets with their requirements, and your Council's landscape officers considers the impact of the landscape to be acceptable, as detailed within the officer's report under consultations. The residential development committed to the east will contain a local area of display, and this is of sufficient size to cater for this development. That is, in addition to the open strip of land either side of the footpath, the village recreation ground some 100 metres to the north, and the village sports field to the south. As the application is in outline form, a further application will be submitted showing details of the design of the houses, their materials of construction, and landscaping. And these will ensure that the proposal fits within the surroundings. Just to clarify a couple of points raised during the previous addresses, we have sought to engage with the Parish Council during the consideration of the application. And just to draw upon a comment made by Mr Curtis regarding the primary school, this is running at a low school roll and therefore there is capacity for more pupils. Finally, the officer's report is very comprehensive and recommends that permission be granted subject to completion of the Section 106 agreement and the imposition of relevant conditions. All of the contributions sought under the legal agreement are acceptable to the applicant, and likewise there is no objection to the proposed conditions.
Thank you. Local members, Councillor Irving Swift, you're going first, mate.
Yes, I am going first. Well, for a lot of members, we remember the planning application for 38 dwellings, and at the time it was accepted because it was open countryside and we didn't have the joint core strategy. So I was very pleased to see this planning application in front of us, because now we have a joint core strategy, so the open countryside can apply. When I read the beginning of the report from the officer, I was very pleased because she said there would be conflict. The council considered that the proposed development comprising the primarily residential development would conflict with the provision of the State Local Plan GN1, F, GN2, HS22, HS24, and SA, S1, H1, R1 of the West North Central Strategy, core strategy. So I was very pleased. Till I go a bit further, and it's in open countryside. But however, this harm will not result in a significant or demonstrable harm. Well now, if you go to Welford, you can argue exactly the opposite. I think if you do not know Welford, this open space has, on one side we have the development of 38 houses, and the other just 2 houses, and after you have the historical West Street. And in that West Street you have quite a lot of listed houses on bricks. They are very old. It should be a conservation area. That is for Councillor Chandler. If he thinks that Welford could be a conservation area, that would be great. So to say that this open space is not important to the village is misleading. So I will, if I may, put the proposal differently for the same reason that the officer, except that I would say that the development will result in harm to the open countryside and therefore has to be refused. Also to add, because of the 38 houses that were allowed last time, Welford has no need in the need survey. Welford needed 4 new houses. Welford had quite a lot of growth. It's 1,000 houses, 1,000 villager. The surgery. When we talk about the surgery, we talk about Guilsborough, sorry. And in fact, the surgery in Welford is open once a week, and that comes from Arbroath. It's the Arbroath surgery. So people will not go to Guilsborough, which is 6 miles away. If they go, they would rather go to Husband Bosworth, that is just 2 miles away. Also the school, I know some people that at the moment have 2 children, and some children have to go outside because the school is full. So it's you heard that the school wasn't full, and I know certain classes are full and cannot take more. So I do think if that planning application would go ahead, it would be very detrimental to Welford, knowing that in last year, I think it was in September last year, we accepted in Welford 38, a development of 38 houses. So please stop the road now. And for the same reason, except that it causes harm, I will propose a refusal if you let me do so.
So your reason again is?
It will conflict with the provision of safe local plan policy GN1, GN2. I repeat the same thing, but instead the development will result in harm to the open countryside.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Yes. Okay. Councillor Major, you'd like to speak as well.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't have a lot to expand on what's been said so far. Except I think ultimately whether or not you think this should be approved comes down to the level of environmental harm. I think the raised nature of the development and its prominence, I think quite well outlined by Mr. Curtis earlier, really sort of tips the balance to me towards that way. I think the potential environmental harm to the open countryside does outweigh what I think overall would be quite minimal benefits in terms of social and economic. So yeah, I'm happy to second that.
Okay. You'd like to say something?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. With regard to the points about housing need, Councillor Swift, because this is general housing, this is not about meeting Welford's housing need, it's about meeting the district's general need for housing. So unfortunately, the fact that Welford may only have an unmet need of 4 isn't their deciding factor. It's not an exception site, it's general provision.
Yes.
So that's just to answer that point. And I think it's fair to say that we'd have to be able to demonstrate demonstrable harm to the open countryside to justify the reason you give for refusal. And I don't think we could
support that
that
and
is
appeal.
no, but that is a question of opinion. That greenfield will be a wedge, and at the back you have no building. So I think because of the position, the officer might think it's not demonstrable alarm. Frankly, I don't see a lot of difference between the site in Byfield and the site in Welford. We can go, except that it's smaller and it's maybe sandwiched, but it's an essential wedge. I think it will cause Welford. Welford has been developed quite significantly, and I'm sorry, I do think it is significant now. It might not. We can use significant instead of demonstrable if you want, but that I think it's a bit misleading to say it's not significant, because for people from the village, they will tell you they have accepted Welford, has accepted a lot of development. If you go to Welford, you have 1960, 1970, you have so many houses that Welford is my biggest village in my ward, and it has taken building after building. It has social housing. So, and Welford took 38 houses last year. So, I think it's demonstrable harm. Sorry, I would disagree with the, and maybe I hope my colleague will agree with me. Otherwise, I will ask for a site visit if it's possible. Thank you.
Chairman, can I just say, I think what I'm hearing is we think it's an important open space. We can't help you with that, if that's what you really are saying.
Oh, that would be great, Mr. Thurfield. And also, may I say something? When Welford are starting to consult on their neighbourhood plan, and I think it would jump the gun, and if I am not misleading, it was a decision last week that when a neighbourhood plan has been started, to overrule that, it caused damage. So Welford has registered that they have started the process of a neighbourhood plan.
Not true. I think Keith wants to come back on that. Keith?
Just to say, that's not correct. It has to be submitted before it has any weight, really. Unfortunately, just because you started it, it doesn't give it any weight.
Are you suggesting, Keith, that
yeah, I think
the reason should be different to what it's stated?
What I've basically got is lots of, half to the open countryside, but what I'm hearing in so many words is it's considered to be an important open space for various reasons that we've said, the prominence, the nature, and the prominence of that open space tips the balance and it outweighs the minimal benefits. That's what I've summed up together from what's been said. But I think you need to say it is an important open space in your opinion, if that's what you're saying, really. And those are the reasons why.
Well, the officer said, and strangely enough, he said, it's written, the council consider that the proposed development comprising of primarily residential development will conflict with the provision of self-local plan and of the West Northamptonshire Joint Core Strategy. So those, we know that it is in conflict, and on top of that, the development would result in a significant harm of the open countryside.
I think. Yeah, I was just going to say one thing. I think what the officer's trying to tell you in a nice sort of way, what you're trying to achieve with the words that you're saying is better achieved in his words than your words.
Oh, I agree.
It still is exactly the same.
If it's exactly the same, I agree with Mr. Thurfield entirely.
All right.
That would be a first.
Council Chair, we all try to agree with Mr. Thurfield, of course. But what you have to understand here, and place this in this context, is that you don't have a 5-year housing land supply. If you don't have a 5-year housing land supply, a number of your state policies are deemed out of date, as indeed are aspects of the Joint Core Strategy. We've already had a planning decision that has made it quite clear that our
R1G is out of date because it relates to the supply of housing. So you have an obstacle to overcome. There is a clear benefit because it is providing you with additional housing. So you have to weigh that into account. You said it's broadly the same as Byfield. Byfield actually have material considerations in addition which you don't have here. One of which was that it was being developed on better and most versatile soil, which is specifically contrary to MPPF 112. So you have problems with that. So I don't think you can say that they are exactly comparable. Of course you can actually say, I think Mr Thurst was absolutely right to say that if you're going to go down the route that you're suggesting, to say it is important open space, the difficulty is, you're here with an application, you don't have a designation of any kind to that effect on this piece of land, so you are vulnerable.
Okay. So going back to what's your original proposal, are you willing to accept the words that have been suggested, which encompass what you're trying to put over that Mr Thursfield said, rather than the words you put forward?
Yes, I would be very happy with Mr Thursfield.
Right. The seconder, are you happy as well?
Yes, thank you.
Right, thank you. Councillor Frenchman.
Thank you. Being a councillor of very short memory, I don't remember the application 0696 for the 38 dwellings. I'm assuming that similar arguments were advanced against that particular development, and I presume failed. I was on the committee, but I have no recollection of this at all. So I don't understand why, and much as I would love to support Councillor Irving Swift, if that application was granted, why this one shouldn't be. It just seems logical. So, you know, it pains me to say it, but I would have to actually vote against that amendment, because I can't see any difference between this being granted approval and the previous one being granted approval, unless officers can inform me of any sort of material differences between the two sites.
The only real difference is basically the land is on a higher level by about a metre, but it's pretty much on the same parcel of land, given sort of separate to sort of a small area, square area to the west. So sort of the same sort of situation really does occur. Sort of the only sort of really issue is the difference in land point. Thank you.
Any more comments from councillors? Councillor Randall.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Education. It says here that the secondary school is oversubscribed, so there will be additional funds. I assume that the secondary school has got room for extension, because, you know, it says that there's space in the primary, but the secondary school is oversubscribed. So, you know, and obviously if they've already got other houses, you know, being built, you know, is there room for them? Because it's all right giving them money, but if they've got no room to build any extra classrooms, what do they do? Or where do the children go?
Thank you. Basically, sort of the education contribution will help to mitigate sort of that impact. It's very similar. It's sort of this, the secondary education section 106 contribution was put on the previous application for the 38 scheme as well. This is something which the county has requested, which is also in our supplementary planning document for infrastructure. So in a sense it helps to mitigate sort of that impact. So in a sense potentially the school might be able to develop. If not, then potentially it might go elsewhere to secondary school which will be able to accommodate those children.
And the other thing I've got to say is that we see this a lot now, that reading, you know, the summary at the beginning, had we had a 5-year land supply, I assume this would be up for refusal, or would it still be up for approval? Because reading it, everything sort of goes against, and then it's sort of the final paragraph, but because we, you know, cannot demonstrate a 5-year land supply, so it almost seems to me that, you know, had we got that, it would be up for refusal.
That's a good question. Catherine?
Basically, sort of obviously the material considerations might be different, but then again, sort of the MPPF is all about the presumption in favour of sustainable development and also to boost the supply of housing. So that is material consideration in determining the application. So basically, sort of each case will still be taken on its own merits. But yes, potentially in some cases we might have a stronger position.
Councillor Patchett.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. With regards to HS22, we have, as a committee, approved houses or developments that have been sort of around the 15 to 20 on a number of occasions, including West Avenue, Chairman, your ward. The difference with Byfield, of course, as well, is that 116 isn't necessarily small scale. I do remember the application for 38 houses when it came to committee the last time, and it was the committee's view that this application would be forthcoming at some point in the future. And here we are today. I think the 6 miles to the doctor's surgery at Skillsborough is quite a long way to go, and I think there's an avenue there for the applicant to be providing funding so that the doctor's surgery in Welford could be open more than 1 day a week. I also do know that there is bungalows needing the housing needs survey for the district. It's been something which I've argued in the past on other applications, and that there's an avenue, I think, for the applicant to provide some bungalows in this development should it be approved. The other thing I think should be an important part of this application, that the detailed application for both of the site should come back to committee to make sure that the design is acceptable to the village, and also that the section 106 is what the village understands it to be at the time. So that's my view, Chairman.
Thank you. You'd like to say something, Catherine?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Just to come back on the doctor's surgery, sort of the NHS have actually responded to say that there's actually capacity at the local surgery, therefore they have no justification to request any section 106 monies. So in regards to sort of the bungalows on the site, obviously we will be sort of required or advised by our sort of affordable housing officer regarding the 10 million split, especially through the section 106 process.
Quick one, Irving.
Yes, Councillor Frenchman said what is the difference between 38 and that. The 1 metre bank, if you see the site and it has to cut in, and after to go, you have a such difference on the road. So, and 1 metre is not negligible. When you look at it, you will see the difference. And it's very difficult to explain because here you don't see it. But if you looked at the road, you will understand that it is quite a big engineering work. And in fact, it is referred in the condition that before anything, we need more detail on the entrance. It's condition, sorry. So that is one of the big difference. Condition 6.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Just to make sure that all parish councils know whether they support an application or not, there's nothing wrong with them putting in a wish list on a 106 wish list. It doesn't mean you'll get them, but as will be demonstrated a bit further on, that there is a parish council that's totally opposed to a parish application, but they have put a 106 wish list in. So there's nothing wrong. It doesn't make your position any worse by doing so. So you can do that even though perhaps you don't support an application, should it go ahead. Right, any more comments? If Councillor Patchett, then we go to the vote.
I just thought we might explore the possibility of reducing the overall ridge levels, or making it a condition that the ground levels are reduced in respect to the bank, which seems to be a concern.
In a sense, that sort of thing will be considered at the reserved matters stage. Obviously, the impact on the street scene, impact on the character, will be sort of considered sort of on that through sort of the overall development of the houses.
Well, I believe we can make it a condition of approval of outline that the level of soil levels are reduced to accommodate the detailed application.
How do you know it's going to be necessary?
We don't know until we know the levels. Until the application comes
You clearly
in.
have to pass 6 tests for all conditions. You've got to be reasonable and necessary. How do you know it's reasonable and necessary at the outline stage till you know what they're going to build?
But we get what you're saying, Councillor Paget. Okay, we've got a proposal that the application is refused for the given reason, which has been seconded. All those in favour, please show. Those against? Right. That proposal is lost. Do we need to go back to the first one?
Yes, Chairman.
The reversal. So I need a proposal. Thank you, Councillor Paul, and I need a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Osborne, that the application be approved. All those in favour, please show. Those against? Right, the application is approved. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we move on to Brixworth 0900. Please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, you see from the site plan there, this is the site which lies between the Brixworth bypass and the Northampton Road. It's to the south of the existing phase 1 development that's being carried out by Barrett's, and you'll see this is effectively a Barrett's application for a phase 2. It's an interesting application actually. In fact, it's a hybrid. You'll see from the description it's primarily an outline application for residential development up to 90 dwellings, including a doctor's surgery, associated public open space, landscaping and infrastructure. It's also a full application to revise the position of plots 17, 18, 19 and 20 within the phase 1. Basically what's happened is, obviously when phase 1 was going to be a dead end, if you like, there was a turning head required, and now they're proposing to carry on the axis road into phase 2. They don't need a turning head. I've got a detailed plan actually. Sorry, you've got it there. I think it's the alteration. Yeah. Yeah. So the one on the left there shows you as approved now the turning head, and then the one on the right shows you the revised proposal. They are the same house types, and basically they're just rejigged a little bit so more easily available space. Don't waste space having a turning head we don't need anymore. I'd also refer members to the late representations, because you'll see there we now have had the comments from the Highway Authority, and there's some additional suggested conditions. There's also comments which are pertinent to the heads and terms on the section 106. You'll be aware that we recently had an appeal at West Haddon where an inspector gave the section 106 a thorough going over, basically ruled out some of the contributions that were being sought on the basis that they weren't still compliant, so it couldn't be asked for. And I think we've considered that point basically, so just to draw members' attention to that. So nobody says later on we've challenged from what we said in committee. So we're basically saying fire and rescue contribution can't be sought, the library contribution can't be sought, and the construction training contribution can't be sought. Although having said that, Barratt's still up for an apprenticeship scheme if they're out anyway that would deal with that issue as far as we're concerned. And I think from memory we had that discussion with them on phase 1, so don't have an issue with that. In terms of the principle of the thing, I mean, it sits to the south of the village. It sits obviously in an area of land which is constrained by the bypass on the one side and the Northampton Road on the other side. There is a huge benefit obviously in terms of what's been offered, apart from the housing shortfall. We're also getting a new doctor's surgery which will be available for the village and the wider community. Now that clearly goes beyond the benefits actually required as a result of this scheme. So that is a big benefit really. And not only will you actually have, shall we say, a contribution in terms of financial, this actually seeks to build and deliver the thing on site, and that is part of what's been proposed here. So it is actually within the description of the planning application on that indicative plan. You'll see that the location of the surgery is pretty well set. Access is the only thing that's not reserved matter, it's still outlined, but the Highway Authority have said they do want a separate access into the doctor's surgery from the Northampton Road, and that does make a lot of sense really, because we wouldn't want everybody having to come to the village to go to the doctors, having to drive through the residential estate streets to get to the doctor's surgery. So having it off the Northampton Road does make a lot of sense really, rather than taking it away at the back of the residential development. So say, in terms of vision impact and harm, we didn't really think there was a major issue here. It is constrained very well. It's very well screened on both sides, as you saw from the photographs. And most of the benefits are obvious, as I say, through the doctor's surgery. There is one little downside, which is it is grade 2 agricultural land, but so was phase 1, and so was the previous housing that was developed to the north of that in the last tranche of development in Brixworth, sort of under the local plan policies that have now become out of date. So overall, doing that balancing exercise, we felt the benefits of this scheme far outweigh any harm that might be caused by the loss of this restricted piece of open countryside, which is good quality agricultural land. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Just before we go on to the two speakers, lady at the back, there are 3 nice comfortable seats here. We prefer people to sit down actually, if you wouldn't mind. And you'll be a lot more comfortable. You come out the front, it's easy to get to. Right, we have 2 speakers. Mr. Parnaby from Brixworth Parish Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and councillors. To begin with, I would like to commend Barracombe for engaging so effectively with the Brixworth Neighbourhood Plan Steering Group and with BRAIN. Many of the reasons upon which our previous opposition to development of this part of the village was based remain unchanged. As you mentioned, the land in respect of which this application is made is agricultural land and is outside the confines of Brixworth village, consequently infringing some of Daventry District Council's safe policies. However, unlike other recent developments which have been thrust upon Brixworth with scant regard for sustainability, this application is different. Previously, I have cited the inadequacy of the existing surgery and its inability to cope with the demands made upon it as a major obstacle to sustainability. No criticism is, of course, intended of the staff who work there and who do an excellent job in coping with the limitations imposed upon them, and over which they have no control. The number of consulting rooms in the present surgery is inadequate, and parking facilities are so tight that the overspill of vehicles onto Northampton Road creates traffic hazards. This also requires those who are unfit to do so to walk additional distances. Others are compelled to drive to Guildesbury in order to receive attention, but this facility is denied to those without the means to travel the 7 miles from Brixworth. In submitting the current application, the developers have stated that they will provide as part of it a new surgery for Brixworth, including some 55 dedicated parking spaces. This will alleviate much of the current pressure on the surgery and will go a long way to cope with the additional demands upon it created by both this application and by Barrett's current adjacent development, which total 240 dwellings in all. The developers have also agreed to provide additional car parking spaces in the centre of the village by extending the existing library car park as an alternative to the previous costly and unwelcome scheme in the centre of the village, which would involve the demolition of 2 houses. Accordingly, I recommend this application for acceptance. However, this recommendation is made solely on the basis that an irrevocable clause is enshrined in the appropriate Section 106 agreement in order to ensure that a suitable doctor's surgery and ancillary parking space is forthcoming, together with the extension to the library car park. We see it as most important that careful note be taken of the fact that our decision not to object to this application be not interpreted as a precedent for further development of Brixworth. By the time this latest development has been completed, Brixworth will have grown by 17% since the beginning of the joint course strategy period in April 2011. Any further development would be detrimental to the character of the village and its setting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker is Mr. Rawlins, the applicant.
I'm not Mr. Rawlins. I'll be coming down here to find shower very loud. My name's Lisa Clemens, I'm also from Barrett Home.
Right.
Okay, this application forms phase 2 of our development of Brixworth, and we're currently building phase 1, and this application will allow us up to 90 additional units. The proposal contains significant open space, a play area, and a new large doctor's surgery for the village. We decided to speak this evening not to talk you through the application documents, but to give you an insight into the approach we've taken with this application. Because what you can't see from the documents is that the community has pretty much shaped this proposal. When we first started engaging with Brixworth about the phase 2, we met with Brain and the neighbourhood plan steering group. And at first they were both very cautious about any future development in the village. But following this and having several meetings with them, the parish council and the public exhibition, we took on board the comments, and the scheme evolved to include a doctor's surgery because that was clear it was something that they wanted. We invited the neighbourhood plan group to come with us on our application journey, and they've been with us for every significant meeting. They came with us to discuss our 106 contribution to the county council. They've been with us the whole way, and we've also had a working party set up to discuss how we're going to deliver the surgery, and Councillor Miller has been leading that for us. It's been agreed that we will deliver the surgery, and it will be funded by reallocating some of our money from phase 1 and the contributions that we have to make for phase 2. So we're not saving anybody, we're just putting it in a different pot, so to speak. We also met with the primary school to discuss their capacity and needs, and we've agreed to pay our contributions to them up front because they said it would help. We're also improving footpath and cycle links from the site to Pittsford Reservoir, which will make the park more accessible to the whole village. We'll also be contributing towards further junction improvements in the local area. So we're now at a point where this application is at committee with, I believe, no objections. And for this type of application, I'm sure that's something we don't see every day. And I believe that's largely down to the work we've done to involve the community in the project. The neighbourhood plan group have been fundamental. They've kept everybody informed, and I hope members support this application, not only on its physical merits and what we're proposing, but the way we've gone about it and the fact that it is the community that's created this, really. As always, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you very much. You're not Mr. Rawlins. Yeah? Right. Local members, Brixworth. Who wants to start first? Lady first. Councillor Reid.
I think that in this particular application, Barretts have to be congratulated for their involvement with like the neighbourhood plan and BAME. The parish council have not objected to this. We knew that this second phase was coming anyway, and I think they're actually very lucky to get these extra facilities within the 106 agreement. So on those grounds, I would go along with officers' advice.
Is that a proposal, Councillor Reid?
No, I'll listen to them.
Thank you. Councillor Barrett next, then followed by Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an application from the Barrett Group, and Barrett is a fine sounding name, I have to say. Rich in history and a nice sound to it. And whilst I do share a name with the company, on a serious note, I have nothing to do, I don't own it or anything like that. This is a hybrid application, as our officers quite rightly said. There's three parts to it. I only intend for, in the interests of time, to address the first of those, which is the outline application for the 90 houses. Now, I think this proposed development is going to be prominent in my view, and of significant size. And it's certainly going to increase the demand on a rather fragile infrastructure of the village itself. And normally that's a bad sign and warning bells start to ring. However, it's always a however, it's nice to have a however in this case. If you're going to apply the sustainability criteria, which is embedded in the NPPF to this particular application, I believe we've got to say, you know, is it a sustainable development? Judge it on those merits, which we must do as planners. Looking at those benefits, especially the social benefits, with the inclusion of that surgery, I think that tips the balance towards a sustainable development, which is what it's all about. And I think that's something which is very, very important indeed. A slight potential downside, which has been alluded to, is possibly a reduction in the amount of affordable housing on this site. Again, there's a balancing act between the money that's got to come in to pay for the surgery. I appreciate the balancing act, and I believe it's been recommended that that's discussed in reserve matters rather than something for main council as it's an outline application. I'll be happy to follow the officer's recommendation on that part. Another slight anomaly is the footpath on the west of the site, going down the old A508, leading to the bus stop. I've had it sent to me by the director of Stagecoach. The bus stop doesn't exist, so we have a path to nowhere. But again, that's a small matter which mustn't get in the way of this application, and I'm told by our officers that that can be handled again at reserve matter stage, and that's the right time for it. It may be part of the travel plan or the condition in addition to condition 28. Either way it can be handled. However, Brixworth, I believe, can't take limitless expansion. It just can't, and it can't remain sustainable. It can't even resemble a sustainable community if the development should continue without something to offset the impact. However, I think there's clear benefits from this application. The surgery is something the village desperately needs. All credit to the present people doing it, no criticism intended, but they deserve good, large premises, as indeed so do the residents. And with that balance tipping the scales in favour of development, I would support this application, Chairman.
Is there a proposal?
Yes, I will propose it.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a seconder before I go to our next speaker from... Thank you, Councillor Chandler. I'll let you come back in a minute when the third speaker from Brixworth has come in. Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just keep this fairly short because I think it can be. I'd refer to Mr Thursfield's comments on page 74 when he refers to there being no objections from anybody on this application. So I think that must be a first in all of these things. So I think that's the main thing in all of this. Everybody is for this in the village, so we must actually bear that in mind. Also, I would just actually add to what Brickford Parish Councillor said, Mr. Parnaby, that as long as the agreements are in place in the 106, which is the surgery and the parking spaces, as long as that's enshrined in the 106, I'm very happy to accept this proposal.
Is that a seconder? We've had a seconder, I do beg your pardon. Right, I've got Councillor Chandler, because he seconded the application, and I've got Councillor Irving-Swift.
And Councillor Frenchman.
And Councillor Frenchman after that.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll be very brief. It is, as has already been pointed out, a refreshing change to look at an application like this and the report that accompanies it and the support that we've heard. And I'm sure that others will have made careful note, and I'm sure that there are lessons for us all in this application, but I'm very happy to second the proposal that we approve it.
Thank you, Councillor Chandler. Councillor Irving-Swift.
Yes, I would speak with my other hat as a county councillor, and with the surgery, the library, excellent car park, and the fund for the school. In another application, you know, because here we are section 106, I suppose that we will not be in between the 106 and the seal. So it will happen without any change, because what is very essential with that planning application is that the surgery and all what has been promised is delivered, and we don't have a change of between 106 and seal in the middle, and everything is lost. So can we make sure that what is promised, and I'm sure Barrett is agree with that the surgery will be built regardless of the change of 106 and seal. Thank you.
I think you're dealing with a professional company like Barrett. You're dealing with officers that realise that should those fears, it will be straight back to this committee, and I can assure you...
it's because it was mentioned in another application.
If it helps, Councillor Irving-Swift, the surgery is being 100% funded, as I understand it, by a single development. It's not people. I'm getting nods from Barrett, so it makes me think that I may just back on that way. And we would consider it to be SIL compliant anyway. So even when SIL comes into force in April, it will comply because A, the SIL compliant, and B, it's only one application necessitating the creation of the surgery.
Thank you for the reassurance. That is all what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Councillor Frenchman.
Yes, I'd just like to pick up a point that Councillor Veig said and commend Barrett on their consultation. And I'd like to suggest that the model of partnership working that appears to have worked here should be introduced for all future consultations, and that parish councils especially should be much more involved in Section 106 agreements than they have been previously. As you know, I've made this point before, and I no doubt will make it again. So I just bring that to the notice of everybody.
Well, as I said earlier on, Councillor Bretchman, I know you support the view that the parish council can make a list out of what they would like in a 106 agreement, whether they support the application or not.
But with respect, Chair, that's often too late. If they're doing
no,
when they're making a submission to a planning application that's already done it, they have to have done it some little way before that, when the plans are being drawn up for the application, not when the application is actually on board.
That's another way of doing it as well. So, right, Councillor Randall, next.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Just looking at conditions, condition 15, it says for work to be able to commence on site at 7:30 in the morning. Just wondered why it was 7:30 when it's at 8 o'clock, and you know, whether residents are happy with buildings to start at 7:30.
Do you
want to comment on that, Pete?
Well, that's the condition I've been given as our normal condition by the environmental health officers.
I thought it was 8 o'clock, or is that where we've changed it to 8 o'clock? Because some of them are active.
I think it's 8 o'clock on a Saturday, isn't it? It says.
Yeah, that's a lot.
7:30 on a weekday and 8 o'clock on a Saturday.
Okay. And the other thing, I couldn't, it may be in there and I might have missed it, but from the crime prevention design advisor, they advise putting gates on the doctor's surgery. Is that included to be put on?
That's going to work past the reserve matters as well.
Right, okay, and the play area, there's obviously,
yeah, well, what they agreed with the crime design prevention officer was that all those matters could be dealt with at reserve matter stage, because we're talking about tweaking the layout basically to incorporate her requirements.
So when you
this
do
is just
that,
outlined effectively with the access to the only reserve matter. So all you're basically saying is, yes, they can build on that site.
Right.
And the access points are in from phase 1 and in from Northampton Road. That's basically all you're approving now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Luke.
Oh, thank you, Chair. It's just the affordable housing. I see because they're building a surgery, they've been able to reduce the numbers of affordable housing, which seems a bit of a shame, really, because we allow up to 40% that we can have on development of affordable housing. But if they're not going to be built, we're not going to get any affordable housing. I see there's the number may be increased according to the report, but and doesn't seem to be the need in Brixworth, particularly for affordable housing, but there is across the district. And if we keep reducing the number, why do we bother to put a 40% number on it, or 25% that we don't even get sometimes? But we do need affordable housing in these areas. Thank you, Chairman.
Would you like to try it?
Well, just to say in this case, we are saying it's a special case because of the other benefits, and we need to obviously make sure that it's a viable proposition to build the doctor's surgery. But you'll also be aware that there is a way developers can challenge in any event through the Secretary of State, if necessary, the amount of affordable housing they're required to deliver. That's the one thing they can, even though you grant planning permission with Section 106, they can challenge that Section 106 on affordable housing only by literally appealing to the Secretary of State on the Section 106. So, unfortunately, it is the thing that tends to give. And although we think this will be done before Sil comes in, obviously, I think seriously, I might as well say it now, I think we are going to struggle to achieve 40% social housing when it still comes in, because there isn't anything else to give up, basically. So that's just something I'll warn you for the future.
And if I can just add, this would be subject to a viability assessment provided by the applicant, and we often do our own checks on that as well. So this isn't something that would be entered into lightly. There would have to be some evidence that it's appropriate to reduce the affordable housing.
I mean, to be fair, it does say in the report they're currently going through that exercise now. We don't have the answer yet, but I just wanted the in-principle agreement. I mean, the honest answer is we'll get it as high as we can, basically. But obviously, as we've heard, everybody wants the doctor's surgery. We do have to be realistic on what it's going to cost to provide that facility. I mean, in the light reps, it actually says it's up to 18.5% now, which is a little bit higher than it was when I read the report originally, when it was 14. But yeah, I mean, the honest answer is we'll get it as high as we can get it, but obviously we want to make sure that everybody gets the doctor's surgery as well.
Okay. I think there will be difficult times ahead with 40%. I don't think it's going to be achievable across the country, and certainly not across the district as much as you may want it. And certainly when other things like this come in. Councillor Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Congratulations and an observation. Congratulate the developer, the local parish council, and safe to say that I totally agree with officer advice. This has been a long time coming, and it's coming to fruition. However, much has been said about the cooperation between parish council and developer, and I'm reminded of the Malton exchange application, rather, when virtually the whole village wanted the application and it was refused. But an observation, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Paul. Right, we've got a proposal that the application be approved, which has been seconded. All those in agreement, please show. That's unanimous, because one councillor is left. Yeah. Okay, the application is approved. If anybody from Brixworth wants to go, we'll give you a few minutes to... Right, we move on, members, to Kilsby 0935. Catherine.
Thank you, Chairman. This is the site to the western edge of the village of Kilsby, and is set as two halves, a northern field and a southern field. The northern field is a smaller field, however it is close to a Grade 2 listed building, the Hollies. This is an outline application for the construction of 70 dwellings. All matters are reserved except for access onto the site, the north and the south. The northern field has some ridge and furrow, which is classed as a non-designated heritage asset. The county archaeologist has no objections but recommends planning condition. The conservation officer and the applicant's heritage advisor consider the harm to the designated heritage asset is less than substantial. The highway authority have no objection to the proposal subject to conditions and a section 106 contributions. Therefore the proposal is unlikely to result in a danger to those using the highway. There is harm to the character and appearance of the landscape and locality, however this is considered to be limited. At present, Daventry cannot demonstrate a delivery 5-year housing land supply. Therefore, this is a significant material consideration. The benefits in this particular case to boost the supply of housing, address the council's deficits in housing supply, and the economic benefits outweighs the harm caused. The application is recommended for approval. Members' attention is drawn to the late representations. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Catherine. 3 speakers. Mr. Gidney, please, who's against the application.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Ian Gidley. I'm a planning consultant for Kilsby Action Group. Whilst I have the utmost respect for the case officer, I am staggered by the recommendation. It is wholly inconsistent with the refusal of the Rugby Road application for 99 dwellings. In my professional opinion, the Barbie Road site is far worse in planning terms. Members need to be aware that approval of this scheme could result in officers being unable to defend Gladden's appeal and therefore result in fall of order costs. The only reason given for the recommendation is the absence of a 5-year housing land supply. The latest appeal decision at West Had in December conferred a 4.68 years supply and then added 100 dwellings. So we now have at least 4.85 years supply, plus recent approvals including this evening. This is a really important point. It is considered the officer has given this issue far too much weight and on balance. The nominal undersupply, or probably not now, is not sufficient to justify such an unsustainable development. The tide is changing on 5-year land supply. The Secretary of State has realised that rural villages are fed up of taking substantial amounts of housing without the necessary supporting infrastructure. Eric Pickles has recently halted applications for housing in at least 6 villages, despite all lacking a 5-year land supply, and instead backed their emerging neighbourhood plan. The Parish Council is positively planning for the needs of Kilsby, and work is well advanced on a neighbourhood plan. A local needs survey has been completed. The draft report found that 29 households expressed a need for market housing, of which the vast majority wanted to downsize, thus freeing up more housing. Kilsby already has at least 52 dwellings approved that will more than meet this need. Of the 9 households that needed social housing, 5 needed elderly accommodation and 3 needed a flat. So it is clear the proposed development will do nothing to meet the needs of the village. Insufficient weight has been given to the core strategy adopted 2 months ago. The proposed development is contrary to policies S1, S3 and R1. Apart from being outside the confines of the village, the council is in great danger of an oversupply of rural housing. Out of the 2,360 dwellings distributed to villages, there was only 240 dwellings left to be built by 2029. Kilsby is simply an unsustainable village for substantial development because it lacks a health service and many other facilities, unlike Crick and West Haddon. It has been asked to take more development. Apart from this, large sites in Kilsby will harm the delivery of the Churchfields SUE in Daventry. On highways, it is clear from the photographs submitted that Barbie Road is a dangerous, windy road and that the proposed accesses are on a blind bend in Browder Hill. It's probably the most dangerous access proposal I've ever seen. Moving the speed limit will make little difference. In respect of landscape impact, development can only be expressed as an incongruous incursion into the open countryside. As the photograph demonstrates, the southern field turns its back onto the village and has a level difference of some 7 metres. The northern section is separated by open fields and so divorced from the village. Last but not least, there's a substantial harm that will be caused to the Grade 2 listed buildings at Hollis, contrary to the MPPF and the Buildings Act. There's a farmhouse that consequently is an important relationship with its farmland setting, but this will be obliterated by the proposed housing in close proximity. In fact, the Council's Conservation Officer recommended that this northern field be omitted from the proposed development, which was respectfully requested that the permission be refused for these reasons. Thank you for your time and opportunity to speak.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Dunn, Parish Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rich Dunn, Chairman of Kilsby Parish Council. Half of what I've got written down here, unfortunately, just been said because I had no idea what was going to be said. But DDC have already refused the application for 99 houses on Rugby Road in Kilsby prior to the adoption of the Joint Core Strategy. Now, after the strategy has been approved, this new development is recommended for approval. We can't understand why. The reason for refusal of the Rugby Road development was just as relevant to the Barbie Road application. Committee members should be strong and support the Joint Core Strategy which has been adopted to help us protect our rural village. Part of the application site is in a location of an area of flood risk. The FRA submitted with this application does not comply with the requirements set out in paragraph 9 of the technical guide to the MPPF and does not therefore provide a suitable basis for assessment to be made for the flood risks. In particular, it does not consider fluvial flooding both in relation to the site and the wider community. It does not consider surface water drainage or demonstrate that the proposed development will not increase flood risk elsewhere. It does not properly address the surface water coming into the site from elsewhere and does not consider whether the adjacent brook presents a flood risk to the site. In light of this, the Parish Council is unable to be assured that development will ensure flood risk is not increased on this site or elsewhere in the parish. As has been said, this site is not allocated for development in the adopted or emerging local plans, nor is it needed to contribute to the Council's 5-year supply of housing loan. The application is therefore contrary to the advice of the NPPF and planning practice guidance, as well as policy BN7 of the West Northamptonshire Joint Plan Strategy. Kilsby is in the process of developing its neighbourhood plan and is well advanced with its community consultation, and from this I can advise that the residents feel that they have already taken their share of houses needed to support the housing needs. Development is currently underway on a brownfield site for 11 houses and 40 houses off the A361. We have therefore had well over a 14% increase in homes coming into the village in the last 6 months. Kilsby Village is already experiencing problems from overload and inadequate strategic services. Anglian Water Authority is advising that the current capacity is unable to sustain future large-scale developments. I personally have had conversations with Severn Trent for a pipe which has been leaking raw sewage down the main road for 4 months, and have been informed that existing sewers are in such a small size that they are at capacity, and only major improvements involving replacement of existing pipework with a larger capacity will relieve the problem. There's no gas in the village, and therefore a heavy reliance on electricity, where local power cuts have become a regular occurrence. The provision of broadband connection remains an outstanding and ongoing problem for all residents. There's the 6,500 town being built at the east of Kilsby, which is already being urbanised and will cause an increase in the already high number of HGVs and private vehicles passing through the village. The village really doesn't want this large development. However, if you feel you have no choice but to grant this, then the parish council plead to be involved in the 106 negotiations with the developers, as we cannot cope with so many extra houses without upgrades to village facilities and infrastructure. The details of costings have been supplied to the planning department. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Garner, the agent.
Thank you, Chairman and Councillors. My name is Rob Garnham from Mediation in Planning, speaking on behalf of the applicant. I won't spend time on all the planning policies involved. These have been very comprehensively covered in the officer's report, resulting in a strong recommendation to approve. The report is lengthy and detailed. Yes, there is the need to deliver houses, and the report strongly highlights that and says why this is a suitable, sustainable site. But there must also be the recognition that councillors have to stay in control over what is finally delivered. Planning is hugely important and should not just be settled on interpretation of policies alone, but on you as councillors, recognising the 2 important roles you have to play tonight. The first is to decide upon the application, and hopefully you will agree with the recommendation, especially as there are no reasons given for refusal, not even from the Conservation Officer. The second role is your duty to both your council and also to the people of Kilsby. And you can do this by remembering the decision tonight is not the end of the matter. Your officers have given you a clear way forward. Any outstanding concerns, including any effects on the heritage assets, can be addressed at reserve matters stage. Should you grant permission tonight, you will have met a vital milestone towards your housing requirements, met your obligation to your own policies, and also retain control over when, where and which type of housing will ultimately be delivered. That power remains firmly in your control. We acknowledge people's concerns and are committed to Section 106 agreements that will benefit the village and help enhance its sustainability and vitality. These are all listed on page 158 and include 40% affordable housing, meeting the NHS obligations as requested by them, and contributions to local facilities, including the village hall. So members, you have 2 important roles tonight: deciding on all you have heard, including the professional opinion of all your officers, but also recognising the importance of that reserved matters stage. The applicant, who is here to listen tonight, has an excellent record of working with councillors, parishes and communities before and long after permission has been granted to address outstanding concerns and continue the dialogue with the ultimate decision makers, you, the councillors. With respect, I ask that you fulfil your duties tonight by voting in favour of much needed housing on this sustainable site, whilst remaining firmly in control of what is actually built.
and overcoming any remaining concerns at the reserve matter stage to deliver a scheme that everyone can be proud of and benefit from. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Two local members not on the committee. The lady can go first. Councillor Lomax. Chairman, underneath the tree.
Yeah.
You've got a seat there tonight, so.
I'm going to come round here. Thank you very much. Members, planning is not black and white. Otherwise, the planning committee wouldn't be needed. Officers have to use their professional judgment to come to recommendations to you on the basis of balance. Do the benefits outweigh the undesirable impacts? You've heard the local people, and I suggest to you that the benefits are far from substantial and the harm is clear. You've heard what the local people have to say. They're not NIMBYs, as our neighbourhood plan survey results demonstrate. A 92% response on that survey, and the overwhelming majority of respondents against large-scale inappropriate developments, but wishing, and I quote, to see the village grow in line with its status as a restricted infill village. I had an email this afternoon from a resident in Pillsbury, and I'd like to read one sentence from it. And he says, "We all need time now to settle and accept the 2 approved developments in the village and let it flourish over the years ahead." Under the proposals for the settlements and countryside local plan, Kilsby would have been designated a secondary service village. It does not have the facilities and infrastructure to be otherwise. In the new hierarchy of the local plan, it will undoubtedly remain in that category. I don't want to go over the same ground as previous eloquent local speakers and their representative here, or the points made in Chris Eaton Harris's letter, which I presume you've all received. However, some facts. 11 houses, which are now being built, and which were not opposed locally, and 41 recently allowed, despite a traffic survey showing average speeds of traffic at the access point at an illegal level. Those 52 houses will equate to an increase in housing in the village of 10%. With tonight's application, there would be an accumulative increase of 24%. And if the appeal, which has been mentioned this evening, proceeds for a further 99 houses, which this committee refused, this would be a 43% increase in Kilsby's size today. Putting aside the appeal site, I've failed to see how even an increase of 24% can be in the interests of an existing or an expanding community. The sites are outside the natural confines of the village, particularly to the north, where old and listed houses have for centuries set the boundaries and turned inwards towards the village. The fields are ridge and furrow, not high quality but highly regarded locally as a sign of the centuries of continuous occupation and activity. The northern plots are seen isolated, cut off from the village, with no connectivity to the centre of the village, but north and south are both out on the limb, mere dormitories. This is not sustainable development. You've heard of the school capacity, medical facilities, non-existent, quick surgery capacity, inconsistent broadband speeds, interrupted electricity supplies, and only an hourly bus service. There will be employment while the sites are being developed, but after that, and in that short term, where is that to get the people to go? They will have to commute. There's employment at Derft, but how many Derft workers could afford the market housing? And what about the 10,000 to 12,000 potential workers living at the Rugby Sustainable Urban Extension? And this 6,000 house extension of Rugby comes to the parish boundary, 1.5 miles by road from the village. This proposed development does not protect or enhance village services, quality of main roads, historic buildings, the scale, setting or character of the village. It is not sustainable development. The latest housing needs survey does not indicate that housing on this scale is needed. Committee, I ask you to use your judgment to weigh the arguments and consider the balance of harm and benefit to the community and refuse this application. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. All right. Councillor Atterbury.
Thank you, Chairman. I haven't got a lot more to add, actually. It's all been said. These developments, the 3 developments in Kilsby, one's been passed, one you've turned down. If it had been the other way around, you'd probably had a different scenario. I think you've got a better case to turn the 361 down. Within that one, you had the reduction of the 361 speed limit, which is a bonus. This site is accessing. I can't understand highways going for this, saying it's okay, because it's nearly an S-bend to get there into this Barby Road off the Rugby Road. The only good side is the Stevenson Court is on the south side of the site. I think we ought to make use more of that complex for the elderly, which seem to get left behind. We all seem to be asking for bungalows and nobody wants to deliver them. That's if you pass it, that is. I'm not saying pass it. And the north side, I think, on the listed building impact, I think is perhaps detrimental to the whole scheme. I think I'll leave you guys just to make your own balance, but it's in your court.
Thank you, Councillor Atterbury. Got Councillor Irving-Swift wishing to speak.
Yes, I have heard what everybody said, and I agree again tonight we have 5 years land supply thrown at us. So I don't want to jeopardize your case, so I would like the councillor to give me a good reason to be able to refuse, because for me I don't see a lot of difference between the case we had a few minutes ago and this one. So please give me a good reason for refusal. I would like to be able to please the people of Kilsby, and I cannot please the people of my ward. Thank you.
I'm sure a member will come up with some reason. If they're going to, if they're not, they're not. Councillor Irving-Swift. If not, you'll have to think of one.
Sorry, I had a little French moment.
A French moment, yeah. Okay. Right, other members that wish to speak. Councillor Paterson.
Right, I'll have a go. I think that Kilsby has been, or appears to be being, blighted by speculative developments. Oh, it's the first time that's happened.
We don't want to hear it. You might think that, but...
So there are a number of elements I would like to bring into this, I think. The first and probably the least important, if you could show me the photograph of the ridge and furrow section. I think from my experience that's probably the most pronounced ridge and furrow that I've ever seen. Not that one, that one. And that makes me believe that that is pretty unspoiled for some little time, because it's not been subject to ploughing and other intensive farming. So in my opinion that would lead it to be a significant heritage asset and should be preserved if possible. I think also that the setting of the historic house and to some extent the village is spoilt by the development, and it gives me great concern that there is a field left, because that is there is another plan where there is a dark green section around the northern field, and it looks like that could be developed at a later time. The main point though is of course that it's in the open countryside and is a prominent extension to the village into the unspoilt countryside. So it's outside the village confines by the same token. So there's also, in my opinion, a sustainability issue here, because there is no broadband, there's no transport links, there's no footpath that I can see or link into the village, therefore it is reasonably cut off. And that northern field is especially cut off because it's surrounded by countryside by the way that the plan has been planned. I'm led to believe, and this gets very difficult to understand in technical terms, that the phrase less than substantial harm actually has shades of grey in it, and that there is a less than substantial harm going up to more than less than substantial harm, which took me by surprise when I found that out. So while I would still say that there is less than substantial harm to the setting of the listed building, I would suggest that it's at the more end rather than the less end of that particular scale. I don't quite know how that is worded in terms of a refusal, but I would also like to suggest that it is outside the village confines and it is forms an unsustainable extension to the village. Thank you, Chair.
Is that a proposal?
It is, if we can knock it into a better shape than my clumsy explanation of less than substantial harm.
We get the other points. Catherine, can you?
There's a couple of points which I just want to come back in the sense with, yes, we can use less of substantial harm. Obviously, sort of in defending that reason for refusal, we would have to consider sort of what weight, in the sense we give that less of substantial harm, but it's not substantial harm. So it's still classed as less substantial.
It just sounds weird.
In regards to, sort of, I know you raised concerns about the links back into the main village. The development actually does include footpath links back into and join the existing footpath network within the village itself.
Hold on a second. There's a suggestion by the noise that it doesn't. Can you show that it does, Catherine?
Yeah, no.
Or if it does.
The developers are proposing to pretty much link it back into the village with footpaths. So just because there's not any now, that's what they're proposing to do.
Right. So I think the committee is saying, or not the committee, the people are saying there isn't one now, but the planners are saying the developers do intend to put one there.
Well, I have to say that we're always told to look at the plan in front of us, and that's exactly what I'm doing. So we can't go on future promises that are not shown on this particular application.
I think, Chairman, to be fair, if it wasn't for a clear requirement anyway, that they'd put back into the system. I just caution on that one on the basis of the decision that was lost on the field recently at West Hampshire. That was primarily the only reason for refusal, that it was too far out from the village. So I just urge caution on that particular point. But I'd take your point on the other thing in terms of the less than substantial harm.
So your other points, Councillor Frenchman, are you including those or not?
Sorry, say that again, Chair.
The points that you made for reason for refusal, are you including them all?
I'm happy to go with the ones that we feel we can defend the best from. If you think the links one is not sustainable, then I'm happy to withdraw that.
We've tried that argument at West Ham basically and lost.
So outside the village, ridge and furrow and effect on listed building, that's what you've talked about.
Yes, I mean, on page 119, second paragraph, there are a number of policies that are quoted there, which I would quote without reading it out. So I'm sure you know what they are.
I think what we're trying to say basically is reading between the lines that open space is part of the setting of a heritage asset to which it causes less than substantial harm, and also the northern part of it behind that building contains ridge and furrow, which is obviously going to go if it gets developed. That seems to be the gist of what you're saying.
That's part of it, and it's also in the open
But obviously it is part of, to be on the village confines in the open countryside, but if you develop it, this is the harm that's caused by developing it, because that's what we've got to do, obviously. We've got to weigh the harm against the benefits, and because we're stuck with this paragraph 14, we've got to have, demonstrable harm to show to outline the benefits.
Does cumulative effect have any weight?
No.
So you're happy with the given reasons?
Yes.
Right, do you have a seconder? Councillor Irving Swift.
Yes, he had a better reason. So.
Okay, thank you. I'll let you speak a little later on, Councillor Irving Swift, because I've got two more people waiting. Councillor Randall, then Councillor Luke.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. You know, I often look at primary places and how this is worked out. Now, I've worked out that actually you say in your report that there's 23 primary and 10 secondary going up to sixth form, making it 33. NHS England has suggested 168 registrations, which means out of those houses there'll be 33 school-age children, so from, I don't know if you include nursery, if they include nursery in that, but then that would be 135 outside of that. Now, if that is the case, if you think about most children would leave home probably by the time of 25, I would say out of that number you're going to have quite a lot of car drivers, so I hope that there's going to be parking provision if this does get passed for those extra cars. Looking at the library, I see that there's a library contribution to Long Buffy, which is fine if you can get to Long Buffy. Just wondering, actually, do they have a mobile library that comes into the village? Broadband, that's another thing, sustainability. Obviously, all these school children now are expected to do all of their homework on the computer. You know, very rarely they have books. So if they haven't got broadband, that is going to be, you know, putting them at considerable harm doing their extra work. And that's all at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Luke.
Thank you, Chairman. I feel a bit out on my own now, because I was one prepared to say that I don't think we have got a lot of reason to refuse this planning application, since the officers have looked at it carefully. Private land supply is a big part of the reason for refusal. I think the less than substantial harm to the listed building and on the open countryside, and the effect of the buildings in the open countryside, whereas the earlier one we had was refused because that was actually would affect the views of the open countryside, but this one fits more in with the developments already there. So, you know, all in all, I would accept officers as vice chair.
Thank you, Councillor Luke. Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Chairman. Seems to be the crux of the argument tonight to me certainly is, have we got a 5-year land supply? We have our think along one line, we have nothing along another. Now this evening we've approved 90 houses in bricks with outline permission. Welford, it does say in the text a further 60, that's 106. And I'm wondering if it could be, whether the officers could give us an indication, are we nearly there, or have we got there?
How long is a bit of string, I think, will be the answer. Do you want to comment on that, officer?
Well, the short answer is it's a rolling 5-year land supply requirement. So they drop off the end and you start again, basically. That's the problem.
We're peaking at this point, so the numbers are going up year on year. They're not going down because this is the peak period in the trajectory.
So no, we're not there.
Okay. Councillor Irving Swift.
Yes, well, if we have, because Councillor Barrett just said something, so I will say we all have to, if we take that approach, we all have to have, if we have villages we want to protect, to ask that to be at the end of the planning session, because if we agree for 200 or 300 before, I mean, one session should not be putting us in such a predicament that we have to, suddenly at the beginning we don't have our 5-line supply, and at the end of the session we have it, because that can be also quite detrimental for our way of voting for or against. Thank you.
You could say as a member that not every inspector does come down on the 5-year land supply. They mention it, but they don't use it. Not everyone uses it for a reason. Councillor Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'm just picking up on what Keith Sturgeon said about a 5-year land supply. And perhaps not a lot of people, and I'm maybe being uncharitable, don't appreciate that, you know, to repeat what Keith said, yes, they go on at one end, but they're forever dropping off at the other end. A statement was made earlier that if this went through, it would harm Daventry Zoo. So, you know, sustainable urban extension. This is where, in this poor mortal's view, the problem with the joint core strategy is that we have sustainable urban extensions dotted here, there and everywhere in ideal locations, according to the strategy. However, the one word that is not in the strategy is deliverability. And it is the deliverability of those urban extensions that is the problem. And once we can get those up and running, the one in Daventry, I mean, for 4,500 houses, is at best probably 2 years away, and that's the problem that we have.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Councillor Patchett.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I was just thinking along the lines of deliverability myself, and I mean, the question for this particular site is, I mean, is this site deliverable within the 5 years? And you know, how will it be judged in conjunction with this sustainable urban development? But I mean, with West Haven, it was a case of, well, you know, the field judge said that the application should be approved irrespective of the 5 year, and yet with Woodford and also at Byfield, they decided that 5 year land supply was sort of kind of near enough there anyway. So I think it's a difficult one to call in that respect. I think we just need to make a decision, Chairman.
Thank you. Well, if there's no more comments, we have a proposal that... Oh, sorry, Councillor Chandler, I do beg your pardon, sir. Accept my apologies.
I've been told officially that I'm easy to ignore.
I wouldn't say that, Councillor Chandler.
A number of points have been raised, Chairman. I just wanted to address some of them to clarify members' thinking before we come to the vote. The speed of traffic was mentioned, but that is not a planning matter. The Rugby Zoo was mentioned. That shouldn't really be affecting us. I know it's hard to hear that, but it really isn't part of our remit, so we have to set it. The local housing need not being there is not an issue that we can use to refuse an application, because the district has a housing need, which brings me to the question of 5 year land supply. It is a moving target, we've heard that already. It can be calculated at the point of decision making. If this application were to be refused, and if it were to go to appeal, then another calculation would be made on that day to inform that decision. But so it's one of those silly things. I did want to make two other points. The heritage matter. There are two matters of heritage here. There is the possible harm to a listed structure, and there's also the undesignated ridge and furrow. It would, of course, be a shame to lose more ridge and furrow, but the county tell me we're not actually short of it. The harm to the listed structure, it's a grade 2 listed structure, I believe, is described as less than substantial. I have challenged this word myself on a number of occasions, and a number of senior planning lawyers have told me that in the view of everybody, I think they just meant themselves, but they said everybody, substantial harm means you demolish the structure. Otherwise it's less than substantial. So it's very difficult to weigh that. And the final point I wanted to make is I do really feel for the neighbourhood planning group in Kilsby, because they are doing what we asked them to do, but unfortunately they haven't yet reached a stage of maturity of their neighbourhood planning that it can be given any weight in this decision. It's most unfortunate, and so, well, that's really all I need to say, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Chairman. Right, there are no more hands, so we have a proposal that the application be refused, which has been seconded for given reasons. All those in favour of that proposal, please show now. How many?
10.
10. Those against? Right, now the other way around. I need a proposal. Sorry, not the other way around this time, obviously. The application, that was very good, the other way around. We have moments. The application is refused for the given reasons. And anybody that would like to go from Gillsby, please go. I think I've got Right. We move on, ladies and gentlemen. Long Butley, next application. 1020, the number.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an application in non-Buckley for the construction of a detached dwelling. This will include the demolishing of an existing garage building, which we see on the photos and also on the plan. The character of the locality is Victorian terrace properties. The proposed design is in keeping with the character and appearance of the locality. The site is within the confines of the village. The Highway Authority does not have any concerns on highway safety grounds. The proposal is therefore considered to be acceptable and is therefore recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Local member? Members, Ramos? You go first, Councillor Oswald.
Oh, thank you, Chairman. I do agree with the Parish Council. I do believe that it's overdevelopment of the site, and I don't agree with their concerns about the parking down Rocker Road, because even though it is really bad on there, there will be on-site parking. I'm in a difficult position because I do think it's overdeveloped the site, but can I reserve the right to come back after I've listened to what any other members say, please?
Thank you. The other local member, which is myself, I think the Parish Council's view was that particular area of the village is a terrible parking area, and as the county have raised no objections, I can't see any possible reason for refusing. But that was the problem. Anybody that drives by there knows that it's like that, and to create another entrance will stop cars parking from outside. That was the Parish Council's concern. But with the comments from the highway, I can't see a problem. Councillor Irving-Swift?
Yes, I would propose that we go with official report on that one.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
Me.
Oh, Councillor Osborne, we'll take you, yeah. Do you know, I suddenly saw this figure across. Councillor Randall.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Right, so you're demolishing a garage and you're constructing a detached dwelling. How many parking spaces will that have?
It's going to be 2 parking spaces, one for the existing house and one for the proposed.
They're just there on the plan.
Right, okay. No, that's fine, thank you.
Members like to zoom in on that?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Something
It's a slow broadband.
So that's the new building, and they're the 2 parking spaces, one behind the existing.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? If not, we have a proposal that the application be approved, which has been seconded. All those in favour, please show.
Yeah, 13.
That's unanimous then. Thank you, Rob. The application is approved. The next application is 10:45, and that's not the time, and that's in Abbey South. Can I remind members the reason that's in here, because it's a Daventry DDC application. Keith, over to you. Or was it Catherine? Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an application for the placement of an advertisement for the vacant building next to Argos in Daventry Town Centre on the High Street. The building is due to be demolished as part of the Town Centre division and the Mulberry Place development. The site is within Daventry's conservation area. The proposed sign is promotional, and the existing facade is considered to be shabby and detract from the character and appearance of the conservation area. The sign is temporary, and as such is considered that the impacts are acceptable in this particular case. Therefore it's recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Members? Councillor Irving-Swift?
Local member.
Oh, sorry, local member. I'm sorry, but your hand went up, so okay. Councillor, you've been so quiet tonight, I didn't know you were there.
I'm making up for all the times. The
Well, the report in front of you is very short and to the point. I believe that the benefits from approving this application will be twofold. It will improve the look of the present building. At the moment, the way it looks at the moment is not very nice at all. It will also promote the development of plans for the new retail and cinema complex. And one other thing is that it will be temporary, because once they start on Mulberry Place, the Argos shop and this will be taken down, and that will be the new, one of the new accesses into the new place. So it's just if it's all right, I'd like to
propose that we accept.
Foreign officers advice.
Thank you, Councillor Eden. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Paul, do you want to speak?
Yeah, I'll just point out that they stole the White Rose trolley. Happy to second it.
Thank you. If no, do you want to speak to Councillor? No. Right, all those in favour of that proposal, please show. Again, thank you. Can you get Councillor Randall in again? Oh.
That means
I don't see why it was refused.
Well, the next application's is in Crit, and it's 1081, the application number.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an application to vary the hours of operation for the extension to Fallowfield in Crick by David Wilson Homes. Members will recall that a similar application was reviewed by members, which is currently at appeal. The applicants have sought to address the reason for refusal by submitting an application to vary the condition to allow for limited trades on Saturdays. The limited trades relate to painters, plasterers, carpenters internally, and wall tilers. Environmental health are concerned with work on site that creates noise. Obviously, by the limited tradesmen, these don't tend to create much noise. And therefore, as a result, the alteration to the hours of work is considered to be acceptable, and it's recommended for approval. Members' attention are drawn to late representations. Thank you, Chairman.
Right, thank you.
No, sorry.
Local members wish to say anything? Councillor Ashby?
It's ironical, really, Chairman. It's the neighbours sort of saw some yellow coats walking around on a Saturday and then again on a Sunday. Anyway, the Sunday, it turned out that they were borrowing shower trays and copper pipe and that sort of things on the Sunday. So why come here, I don't know, Chairman, but it's just, you know, everything's up for grabs these days, isn't it? I think it's locked up or not. Just a comment, really, but yeah, no problem, Chairman.
You will remember there was an application a few meetings ago for this. Well, there's an appeal in for it as well. Now, hopefully, if this application was successful, the appeal would be withdrawn. The difficulty was, if the appeal was won, that would cast as a major against us. That is one of the problems. That's what I said earlier on, and I didn't realise that did, but it does. Right, whose hand was first? I don't know.
I just want to suggest accepting officer's advice.
Well, I'll take you first then, definitely. Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Irving Swift behind you, a hand is
Yes,
rapping.
I remember when we did the first lot, and I said that I wanted the people to have a good Christmas. Christmas is past.
Well, the Christmas is gone, yes. Yeah.
So therefore, providing, I'm sure now they know, so I think we can go with officer. Christmas is past, so they had a good Christmas. I would not go as far as Easter.
Okay, Councillor Patchett.
Okay, on page 177, the DDC Environmental Health and Community says that we shouldn't start work from 8:30 PM on Saturdays, and yet the applicant is asking for 8 o'clock on Saturdays. So I mean, I would suggest that perhaps we stick with our own officer's advice in changing that to 8:30.
Hold on a second. Catherine, would you like to comment on that?
Yes, no, to be honest, I did give environmental health a call in respect to their comments, because it's something which I did notice. However, these hours relate specifically to the noise, sort of the construction, in the sense the actual noise work outside of the properties, not so noisy work such as the tilers, painters, and that sort of thing. So they are happy with the proposed hours which are submitted before you tonight.
Right, I just wondered, if I might continue, Chairman, carpenters make quite a lot of noise. I mean, are they going to have rubber hammers?
It's inside the property.
But it's inside the property rather than outside. I know what you mean, Councillor Patrick. Councillor Ed next, then Councillor.
Chairman, we had quite a few neighbours that came last time and put their point of view over. This time it seems there's been no letters of representation received from any of the neighbours. And I'm on correct labourers. On page 179, 3 paragraphs from the bottom. In planning terms, the site benefits from planning approval are met subject to conditions including the existing agreed CMP which restricts Saturday working on the site. In other developments across the district, the council has allowed for Saturday working between 8 and 1300 hours, and indeed the model planning conditions on the planning inspector website allow for similar arrangements. So that fits in with this, so I'm in agreement.
Thank you, Councillor Edmund. Councillor Randall.
Yeah, all I was going to say is when you've got times quoted of what time you can be on site, you're not going to know whether they're working inside or outside. You know, surely you're not going to. You can't say to them, right, on a Saturday morning you're going to.
But the houses are built.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't need to do a lot outside when they're built.
If you're cutting, say, kitchen tiles to the floors and things like that, no, they won't necessarily cut them inside. They go out.
Would you want to work outside?
Well, they do. They'll go Gary or something.
Anyway, Councillor Osborne, I can see you.
Right, can I just say, Chairman, I've worked on building sites many years, being an electrician, and you do it all inside, because it's colder outside. Even though it's cold inside, it's colder outside, and you do all your work inside. You do, they all do. I've been on site, seen it. You don't see the blokes doing the work outside. So it won't be a problem.
Okay, we've got a proposal that the application be approved. This has been seconded. All those in agreement, please show. Unanimous? Yes? Yeah, unanimous. Right, the application is approved. Our next application is Brinton, application number 1085.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Application was obviously deferred from the last meeting, but you've also seen the previous application on this site which you used, and I think that's probably the starting point, to be honest. As you know, under the MPPF we're under an obligation to try and negotiate and look for solutions rather than problems. And in my opinion, that's what's been done here. We've gradually whittled this down until we've got something that I now think fits in very well with the locality. I know there were still objections to it, and we're probably going to hear people speak against it in a minute, but I really can't see anything better than what's been done here. I want to show you the difference between the street scenes. That's what you could use last night. So you had a house that was similar with the gables to the Brinton house, and then you had a house that was a sort of Georgian with roofs, and you didn't like that. So they've gone away now and they've come up with another house which is in the Brinton style. So you've got 2 houses now with the Brinton style, the stairs, the gables. You see the height relationships there to the existing property which is there on the left, and obviously the other property, the neighbouring property on the right, and the distance involved from that. You'll be aware that there is a listed building involved, but it sits well to the rear. The other problem that you didn't like, if you took on the plan, was the encroachments into the rear area. Now, although we say it's agricultural land, and it is, it does have a tennis court in it, which you'll remember, which isn't really an agricultural feature. But nevertheless, the previous proposal to use part of that area as garden has now been taken away, and they're sticking to the area contained within the red line there that you can see, which is the rear garden wall. some of that wall is going to be reduced in height, but nevertheless that barrier will still be there between what is effectively accepted as residential curtilage and the paddock lands to the rear. Paddock's going to be subdivided so that you each get a bit of paddock for the two houses. If we've got the actual layout plan, we can probably show it better rather than me trying to talk you through it. You can see it on the map. You should have this somewhere. You've got to scroll at the drawings again. There is a layout plan somewhere. There it is. Yeah, it's not very clear unfortunately on my screen. I think it's clear on there. But basically what I'm saying is they have dealt with all the concerns, in my opinion, adequately that were raised in the reasons for refusal. And really we now think this is about as good as you're going to get on this site, and we really can't see any reasons for refusal. So consequently, obviously, we've recommended it for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. We've got 3 speakers. Mrs. Welsh, who's against the application. For a start.
Dear Mr Chairman and fellow councillors, our objections to the revised plans are that the 2 houses are very large in relation to the plot. The gardens of these 2 houses are extremely small in relation to their size. We respectfully would say that they still represent a significant overdevelopment. The overall appearance of the 2 properties together, when viewed as a street scene, is very cramped and just does not belong in Little Brington. The floor area must be less, but the sheer size of the footprint in relation to the plot size remains massive. The plot is just too small without directly or indirectly trying to use the field to the rear of the garden. The gables still have an overbearing look on the side wall. The existing objections we see that still remain are: it represents an overdevelopment of the site evidenced by scale and massing of buildings. The impact of the massing of the house on Newtree Cottage and on the amenities of the residents of the adjoining house, the gables, which are set at a considerably lower level than the application site. We appreciate this application does not include the rear field, but we respectfully say that at some point a further application could be made, or the illegal use of the field could arise if the property's footprint remain at the size in relation to their plot. They should be reduced to fit the plot and allow gardens that are in keeping. We foresee conflict amongst neighbours if, because of their proposed sizes, the owner's lifestyle, for want of a word, spill out into the rear paddock. Simply reduce the houses to allow them to enjoy without the possible of overspilling into the rear land. We would like to make further observations. The application requests the wall be reduced at the rear. This contravenes a clear request by the councillors and opens up the paddock to either a second application or illegal use. We respectfully request the wall remains. It is a strong feature to the property when viewed from the field, where there are 2 footpaths that overlook the rear of the property. The wall at the front is key to the street scene. The application seeks to remove it. The councillors very clearly made this remark and stated it should remain. Waydale Farmhouse has parking spaces right against the wall where there are window openings. This would cause a considerable nuisance. As villagers, we are not opposed to development, provided it is respectful to the village. We cannot understand why the developer just either develops the existing property or builds 2 properties with respect to the property size. This enables sensible gardens to be created. The rear land could remain as either farmland or say a paddock and not put its use under pressure to be used as overspilled garden space, primarily because it's garden. We see the 2 houses are still huge and an overdevelopment to the village. Any further application should be respectful of this. Thank you for taking the time to listen.
Thank you. Mr Thornley, Parish Council.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ben Thornley. I'm the Chairman of Brington Parish Council. The Council itself is supportive of development appropriate to the scale and nature of the parish and in line with the findings of the DDC's own housing needs survey for small affordable housing. I'd like to start by recognising the fact that developers have altered some of their plans to address some of the concerns. It does, however, remain the fact that these houses are very large in relation to the majority of the properties in the village, particularly in relation to the reduced plot size and potential for very small gardens and the overdevelopment of the plot size. We believe there will be a significant visual impact on the community, both from the front, which will impact the street scene, and the rear in relation to the open countryside and special landscape area. And we remain concerned about the potential overshadowing of the lower lying adjacent properties, the Gables and the listed property, Yew Tree Cottage. The applicants indicated the agricultural land outside the village will be divided into 2 plots, yet this land is not subject to the current planning application, it's outside the red line boundary. And we trust this land does not and will not benefit from any permitted development rights associated with the application. We've previously raised concerns regarding the foul and the surface water drainage, particularly in relation to problems in the lower parts of the village. The applicant has addressed the foul concerns by removing the surface water. However, there are no details yet provided of the soakaways which will now be provided on site to take that surface water. We believe this detail, including overland flow routes, should be provided and needs to be resolved before construction to ensure that it doesn't affect the properties at the lower lying areas next to the site. If permitted, the construction phase of the development could have a significant impact on the community and those adjacent lower lying houses, and result in the unacceptable use of the agricultural land. In summary, I basically request that if the committee is minded to approve the application, that the officer's proposed conditions are altered to include the following: adequate safeguards to the agricultural land within the applicant's control, for example, the removal of any use of it during construction or permitted development. Suitable condition requiring details of the soakaway, the sizings and the overland flow routes provided in advance of construction. And a suitable construction condition which not only restricts the timings but also restricts access to that agricultural land, and particularly the section between the Gables and the side, because the Gables sits at a lower level and the garden is lower than the agricultural land. And finally, I would ask that if this was permitted, the committee and council commits to reinvesting any Section 106 monies or any new homes bonus in the community. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Holloway. I'm not going to try and pronounce the next name because I should get it wrong, but I've known him for a long while, so I should call him Mr. Tad.
Good evening, Chair, members of the committee. We did listen to the comments of the committee when you last looked at the scheme, and we reduced the area of the houses by 2,600 square feet from our original application. Now, 3,000 square foot houses are not that uncommon in this end of Main Street, Little Brington. We have Waydale Farmhouse next door, that's in that sort of area. We have Folly House and Orchard House that are there, over 3,000 square feet. Then we have the Manor House there, and Rose Street Cottage itself, which is over 3,000 square feet. The 2 new houses that we are proposing take up 1/3 of the residential curtilage of their plot, excluding the tennis court and the paddock, and they stay within the village confines as was previously stated. Other properties nearby with the same or worse plot ratios are Manor Farmhouse. You see that's not got a great deal of land with it, and it's as large as what we're proposing. Gables, that has a similar plot ratio, 1:3. The cottage, which is just where Main Street is. 1 and 2 Folly Lane, which is a bit further up there, which you approved not that long ago, and Kennings Farm, which is just next to it. So you can see that plot ratios we're proposing are not uncommon in that area. But in addition to that plot ratio, one house has a large tennis court, a fairly formidable amenity, and the other one has half an acre of paddock. So they're not short of land around the building. As far as the design is concerned, we've now done them in stone, and as you can see, they fit into the street scene quite well. So they look well in the street. Why should the size of them be a problem? As far as the gables are concerned, we've moved our building further away. It's 1.5 stories and it's now 60 feet from the gables. It has a lower garage gable which is 40 feet away, 12 metres. These separating distances accord with the council's guidelines and are better than the relationship with Rose Cottage. I've noticed today you approved a house, detached house, with much worse plot ratios in Rugby. And I've been at committee meetings before where plot ratios of 1 to 2 were approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Local member agrees, none. Councillor Irving Swift.
Just I remember the first time buying a vacation, and strangely enough, for me, 2 houses like that detract from a village. A village is something that has grown organically with little and big houses. Yes, we have a manor house, but in a village, normally you have a manor house, and after smaller houses and cottages. You don't have 20 manor houses in a village. Here I find it is an urbanization, or it's a concept of a village from somebody who doesn't live in a village. And I will still think it's an overdevelopment of the site. So that is all what I have to say. I don't know if it's good enough for a planning reason, but I do think we will do a great disservice to Little Binton if we allowed these more cottages to be built, because at the moment there is quite a good house already. Thank you.
Thank you. So you're not making a proposal, let me get it right.
Yes, overdevelopment of the still overdevelopment.
You are making a proposal.
If that is a good, if Mr. Thursfield can defend it, if it goes into appeal.
I don't think we can, to be honest.
Sorry?
I don't think we can just defend overdevelopment of the site because I don't think it is basically. So, sorry, but I can't.
Just want to think about it.
I can't agree.
I will think about it, and I will see if somebody comes with a better reason.
Basically, as we've already said, there is no set plot ratio to garden.
No.
Yes, they're larger houses, but as we've seen, there's several of the larger houses in similar circumstances in the village. And I don't agree really that it's out of character or particularly harmful, but unless you can come up with something solid to say that it is.
May I say something? When I go to villages and I live in a rural area, you have some houses in Little Orton and or in Lamport, and they are with bricks or with stone, and they still look like a thought because they're identical or not very, and it still look overdevelopment of the site from a village point of view. So that is my view, but it's more an aesthetic point of view than something.
Okay.
But I live in villages, so...
Will you think about any reason you might have during the debate, Councillor Irving Swift?
Thank you
Councillor
so much.
Patchett?
Thank you, Chairman. I think the neighbours do have real concerns about the use of the land to the rear. I think it would be a natural progression for the houses there, if they're built to spread out, and they would be the gardens behind. So I think the fear of another application to change the land from agriculture to garden land is very real. I would question the picture that you had on how it's going to look and the height of the garage on the right hand side. The garage on the right hand side there, the roof's drawn quite high on there. It's almost as high as the.
And that's the line to your building.
It looks different from. Oh, I see. It looked like the height of the garage on the end there, but it's a smaller picture.
That's the current building, so it's actually less.
I see. Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for that. And finally, I think it's a good idea to have a condition relating to surface water drainage. I think that's quite an important condition to have in.
Yeah, normally social ways, etc. will be dealt with under the building regulations.
Well, I appreciate that.
But,
I mean, we do have them.
But I think there is some advice that says, if you think that there might be a problem, social ways for use of surface water drainage, you can put a condition on the plan.
That one better,
So I'll put it on in this instance. If that's what it takes to kind of satisfy you. What I will say about paddock at the back, I think we're going to be naive if we don't think people are going to use that paddock at the back. But clearly, there's already a tennis court on one of them, which is a domestic feature. It's not agricultural. And we have to have regard to what we call fact and degree in terms of whether there's been a material change of use to the land at the rear. So if it just stays as a paddock, and on Sunday afternoon, the grandkids go out there and kick a football out for the sake of arguing with granddad, that isn't going to be a change of use. If they put flower beds in, manicured it all, mowed the lawns, and to a reasonable amount, it just looked like a garden, then that would clearly be potentially a change of use, and we would have to get involved in that. They are going to use that land. So, I don't think we should pretend that it isn't going to happen and there will be no use, because it clearly is going to be a use. So as long as it stays as a paddock, then that's what we'd expect, really. There are no permitted development rights for domestics that buy agricultural land anyway, so if they start putting buildings and things on there that are domestic in nature, again, we would have cause of concern. The other point is, of course, the paddock to the right-hand side is setting up a listed building which is next door to it at the rear. So, again, we would have concerns about anything that affected the setting of a listed building.
Councillor Frenchman.
Yes, two quick points. Condition 3, the replacement batteries, it says should be fully implemented before either houses are first occupied.
Yeah.
Should it not be before they're built, or are they actually part of the house?
I think they're going in the houses.
They're going in the houses, that's fine, thank you. And secondly, to allay any fears of carrying on from what Councillor Patcher said, can we remove permitted development rights? So this allays any fears about overdevelopment of the site?
I thought I saw a condition side.
No, I couldn't see one.
Building rights were removed before I'd seen. Wow, quite good actually. Perhaps already on the actual topics there.
Because if we can do that, then I would...
I'm quite happy to take building rights away on the basis that it's already a tight site.
I would recommend that we follow officers' advice.
We'd have that condition on, and also obviously the one about the socal way, details of the socal ways.
Do you have a seconder? Right, Councillor Evans. Right, Councillor Luke is the next to speak, then it's Councillor Evans. So are you happy for that order?
Yeah,
yes,
fine.
okay. Councillor Luke.
Thank you, Chair. Well, this has been refused once, it's been deferred once. The officers have negotiated and considered it, and I really don't think they would have brought it to committee if they didn't think it was a reasonable solution to the problem. So I think we should support officers' advice this time. I don't know whether we can incorporate any of the conditions that the parish council spoke about in his presentation to committee. If we can incorporate any of those and make life better for them, it would be good. I would support officers' advice. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. We'll put on the Circle one, and we'll put on the note committee development by Circle and committee development by.
Councillor Ed next.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to say that I think since this was put away last time, the agents and the applicants and our officers have worked, and they've sorted out all the things that did come up with this. And I think now that it's a very pleasing sight. And I was going to say, I can't say it again. I agree.
It's because you were too quiet in the first part of the meeting.
I lost my voice. Yeah.
Councillor Ball, then Councillor Elvingsworth.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I mean, this application comes back and back and back. However, I'm now trying to find a reason for refusal. The applicant has gone a long, long way since the last application was refused. I totally agree that. With regard to the land at the rear, whatever happens to it, we got control if they want to put a house on it. So, you know, that it's not a problem. And I agree with you, it would be naive if you think that it's never going to be used or nobody's ever going to walk on it. I feel that the scale and mass are still too big. I know that they've been reduced. I still feel that it is too big for the site, so you know, I'm looking towards overdevelopment. But if my colleagues are agreeing to approve the application or go on with officers' advice, then so be it. But it is a view, the scale of mass, it is not, I don't think, enough to stop the approval going forward. And I commend the applicant for the latest drawings. I only wish I was a little bit smaller. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Irving first.
Yes, may I look at the plan with a red line around it, please? You have the plan of the building. So basically, at the moment, you have a drive at the back of the building. So when the two houses will be built, they will be sold without the back. So therefore, at the moment, what the planning application just go with the red, the red outline. And is that true? Because if it's true, it would be, for me, I think it's quite an overdevelopment because the back doesn't seem to be part of the planning application.
It is. It's in the same ownership.
Yeah.
That's shown by the blue line.
Yeah. The blue line is just staying in this basically, which is a paddock with a tennis court in it. And it does have obviously a field entrance from Main Street there.
Where will the new houses parked that might exist, Councillor Irving?
Yeah. What I would like, if the member would be willing to go with planning officer advice, is that we make sure that the back of the paddock is divided between the two houses.
Yes, it is. You can just see that on top. I don't know if you can get the whole. You can see the boundary there. You can see a boundary hedge and go there on the side of the tennis court.
Yeah, the boundary's there, Councillor.
Yeah. Quickie.
Okay, Councillor Paul.
Yes. Can I? Have we got? I can't quite see that. I'm thinking about the splays, the highway splays. I can't quite see that.
I'll zoom in, Councillor Paul.
That's part of why we've got to deal with the wall in front of the site to get the visibility splays. When people sign we're losing the wall, the reason is to get visibility displays.
We're losing the wall, which upsets our heritage.
Well, it's been reduced in height, basically. There is still some obviously it was cut down compared to what's there now.
Thank you. I would also, before members vote, if they vote in favour of the application, I have concerns because of the narrowness of the road, because of the popularity of the public house, the normal hours, Monday, Friday and Saturday mornings. I would have concerns around Saturday mornings, purely and simply because of the public house and the amount of activity in that village, on that small road at weekends. So I would, if it's approved, I would like the Saturday working taken away, Chairman.
What's your answer to that, Keith?
harsh, to be honest, Chairman. I mean, the busiest time in that village seems to be when the school's open.
Sorry?
I'd say the busiest time in that village seems to me to be when the school's open, in terms of traffic zooming backwards and forwards down that street. And I've personally witnessed that on numerous occasions.
Well,
I thought Saturday morning it was particularly busy because people were going to the pub, but
having frequented the village on more than one occasion in the public house, we'll agree to this.
So with our early morning working, I mean, I might be going to the pub for lunch maybe.
So you're declaring an interest because you go to the pub on something. Okay. Right, we've got a proposal that the application be approved, which has been seconded. All those in favour, please show. Those against? That can't be possibly right. It's only 13 of them, and 12 and 2 make 14. The application is approved. Yeah, we're not going to bother to answer that. Sorry? 5 minutes. We're not asking nothing. If you could shut the door, we'd be grateful.
We'll be alright.
We'll be okay. It's slowly coming. It's all right.
Finish before it closes.
Right, we move to the last.
Yeah. Come on, see if you can do it.
This is you. We
Chairman,
moved.
I have prepared a 15-minute presentation for this.
But
it's you'll recall at council in December that the council voted to go for implementation of SIL. We immediately the next day launched a consultation which is required into changing the local requirements. The reason we need to do that ahead of SIL implementation, which is likely to be June-ish, best guess at the moment, because it's going to is it not? Has it changed?
I'll give you some detail on that in a moment.
It's got to be inspected basically, but 3 or 4 months ahead of it being implemented, what we need is to have a change in the local requirements in order that we are ready with any live applications as soon as SIL becomes live to either go with SIL or carry on with Section 106. So this is very simply what the report recommends, and the committee is making the decision and council will later affirm it.
Just helpful comment, and then I'll propose that we follow the advice. Helpful comment, I hope it's helpful, is we do now have the name of the inspector who will carry out the examination in public. It's a senior member of the inspectorate who's there, Sil Whiskid. I've got his name in my brief if you want to know. And the examination in public will take place on the 13th and 14th of May, with a reserve for the 15th of May in case it spills over the 2 days expected. We are expecting that there will be representations at the examination in public from those people who, you remember I pointed out, objected to the SIL charging schedule. And the inspectorate, and this gentleman in particular, are quite quick at turning around their reports. We're expecting a report at the end of June or the very first week in July. There's a council meeting on the 30th of July at which we could adopt SIL, and therefore it would be applied to every decision made from the 1st of August onwards.
Happy birthday to me.
And you're going to...
I propose that we follow the advice and
I'll second that.
Thank you. The committee happy with the advice?
Yeah.
Please, All of you?
Yeah.
That concludes the meeting then. Thank you.